Hello and welcome to week 2 of my 10-week programme of Christmas classes here on Zoom. Well, actually, as you can see, I'm not on Zoom. We've just finished class and I discovered I didn't hit record. So I'm going to refilm what we did today, so you've got a record that you can refer back to and watch again and catch up when you've got a moment. But first, a recap of what we got up to last week. Week 1 was all about making garlands using natural plant materials, and we strung up some pine cones, a little washing line of cinnamon sticks making use of our clove hitch knots, a tassel of cinnamon sticks. These would be great hanging vertically, but you could also hang them horizontally like a conventional garland as well. Imagine it as a woodland tinsel. And then I showed how to wire little beech nut husks onto reel wire, and this is the wire that is coloured and comes on a reel, so it's REEL wire. So in the making and creating section last week, I got on and used the techniques that I showed, and I came up with my own little version of a mini garland which I used to wrap around my candle, and you can see that here. So I cut my cinnamon sticks down into quarters, and I've got my little beech nut husks and some berries. These are fake raspberries, and I took them off the picks, the little stems, and threaded my wire through the middle of the polystyrene centre of the stems, and I made 3 garlands altogether, one of the cinnamon sticks, one of the beech nut husks and one of the raspberries, and then wound them all together and finished them off with a little curly tail instead of cutting off the loose wires. So on with the show, and this week we're going to be making little mini DIY gift boxes, a bit of a chance to get your origami on and to add in a floral flourish at the end if you're feeling a little bit out of your flower comfort zone. So these are the boxes I've just finished demonstrating in class, and they're made out of magazine covers. So when you come to make your own boxes, you want to pick paper that is going to be robust enough to stand up. So if you have nothing else to hand, a sheet of printer paper would do the trick in terms of learning the technique, but it's not going to be robust enough to hold up as a box. So these are actually the covers of a magazine. Also, when you flick through magazines, sometimes you have sturdier inserts, so it could be that you're ripping up pages out of an old annual, something like that, but aim for something that's about A4 sized. Little gift box that, as you can see, is probably about, each dimension is about the length of my index finger. So what I'll do now is roll the camera over and get you looking over my shoulder so you can see exactly what I'm doing. Now, if at any point when you're watching this video you just don't understand what I'm doing, you can always ask me a question over in my free Facebook group, Flower Start World, or drop me a line when you get this email and I'll see whether I can help you out. And as ever, I love seeing what you get up to, so do post a photograph of your little DIY boxes in my free Facebook group, Flower Start World, or tag me on Instagram. I'm at Flower Start with an underscore at the end, and use the hashtag Flower Start, and I will catch up with you there. So without further ado, it's onto my messy kitchen table so you can have a look at what I'm doing and look over my shoulder and see if hopefully you will enjoy making these, and you will be getting, quite addictive. I think it is quite an addictive technique that you can sit in front of the telly with a tray on your lap, magazines to one side, and get ripping, folding, and using your scissors as well. A glue stick is also optional. So these are the gift boxes we've been making. So imagine it's Christmas morning, undoing the ribbon, taking away the little bit of a floral flourish. And the gift boxes is made up of 2 smaller boxes. So these are the back covers of a magazine. And when I unwrap them, if I unwrap this one here, you can see how easily they went together, and you'll see there that you end up with lots of folds and lots of lines going across on your grid. And to make things really easy, I have colour coordinated my lines, And I will make sure that when I send the video out to you, that you also get the photographs so you can see how I folded and which lines I folded and in what order. The things to look out for is your bottom of your box is made up of 4 squares, and that is the base of the box, like so. You can just slightly see the indentations there on the box. So once you've got the idea, you'll be well away. It does take a little bit of practice, and what I would suggest you do is when you make your first box is to not glue the flaps in place, in order that when you need a reminder you can undo your box and put it back together again, and that's really easy to do. So what I do with putting my box together, I'm folding over the edge. I'll talk you through this in more detail, but just to show you how quickly it goes together when you know what you're doing, and it's just a little bit of time and effort, and then you've got your box back again. So the first thing you need to do is to rip off the covers of your magazines, and I've already ripped these off because I use them in class. So what I'm going to do is, in this magazine here, I know that there's some nice papers here that were designed to be ripped out of the magazine, and fortunately they've got a little serrated edge there, so I should be able to rip this out without it spoiling the shape of the paper. So I'll just do that carefully now. So there's number 1, and you will need 2 sheets of paper. Let's see if I can find the next one in there, and rip that one out as well. So we're going to be working with 2 square shapes. You can either measure those square shapes out, but I find the easiest way of measuring the square is to fold your card in half and to make a triangle. And what you need to do here is, before you commit to creasing along this diagonal line, is to just make sure you're matching the corners right at the edge, matching along the line there. And when you're happy with that, that's when you can commit with doing a firm fold. You don't need this section here, so you can cut that away. So you may find it easiest to draw a line. Open out your card and then cut down. So that is your first square. And then for the second, do exactly the same thing. So coming up with the corner here, bring it off to the edge, matching it in place, and then committing with the firm fold. And then getting rid of the excess here. So I like to draw a line using the edge of the paper as a guide, and then cut off what I don't need. So you'll end up with 2 pieces of card which are the same size. Now I'm going to put these away just for a moment so I can show you just one of the pitfalls you need to factor in if you are going to be ripping off the front covers of your magazine. So when you rip off a magazine, if that's what you decide to use, you may find that as you rip it off, part of the spine of the magazine is coming off as well. And you need to just trim, or just be aware of the fact that this part here, the spine, doesn't comprise part of your overall square. So if you do rip off your magazine, you may want to go through, before you even start to cut your 2 triangles, just come back in and get rid of the section of the cover that would have originally been the spine. And that way, if you have ripped off and got a bit of extra paper where you've ripped the magazine covers, that you just trim them both down to size, because you want to start off with pieces, with 2 squares that are the same size. So just watch out for that spine edge, which you may need to trim and get rid of. So having said that you need to start off with 2 pieces of card the same size, what you actually need is 2 pieces of card with one slightly smaller than the other because the boxes interlock. So when you put the boxes back together again, the bottom is smaller than the box at the top, the lid at the top. So you can see that the bottom box is smaller than the top box. So we need to make an allowance for that right now. So the way that I do that is to take a piece of card, whichever piece of card it is that you want to be top or the bottom, and I'm going to trim off some excess at the edge. So probably about 1 centimetre will be enough, and you could just eye this up or measure it. So something, you know, between 8 and 10 millimetres would be a good idea. And depending on the thickness of the card or the paper you're working with, you may need to adjust this a little bit. So do the first box, and then if you think your fit's a bit tight, trim off a bit more next time, or if it's a bit loose, trim off less. So to note here, I'm only trimming off on one side. So my 1 centimetre gap is just on that one side. I'm not taking it off on the second side there. So it's just one cut. So following that line, and cut it down. So when I put the 2 pieces together again, I've got one piece of card that is slightly smaller than the other. So you can see by just cutting off that one edge, when I match them together in that bottom corner, I've got a strip around the edge. So that is what you're looking for, is the slightly smaller piece of card. Once you've done that, you can start with your folding and making. So I'm going to get rid of my bottom sheet and I'll come back to that. So we folded like that originally to create a triangle to then cut our square. So we then repeat that going the other way. So matching up the corners. So before you commit to your fold, you're matching up the corner here and the 2 angles at the side. And when you're happy you've got a match, you can press firmly. So we are doing origami and it's all about the precision. So do make sure you match that in carefully. I'm then going to take the point that's closest to me and fold that into the centre. So where those lines cross in the middle, and fold it. Twist it round, and that flap doesn't need to stay down. You can flap it back, bring up the corner that's closest to you into the centre, and you'll see where the lines are crossing over in the centre. Fold that back, the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you'll see I've got my original diagonal lines. And if I just rotate the card a little bit so I've got the point towards me, but my folds have created a big square. So my first folds were the diagonals. My second folds created this square with a large triangle on the side. So then taking the point that's closest to me, I'm not going to aim for the middle. I'm going to aim for this line here, which is the base of that flap of triangle. So I go beyond the circle and match it up where those lines join and fold across. And then the same thing, rotate the card, point towards me. It's not going to the centre, it's going to this fold line across here. And a nice firm crease. That's number 2. Same thing again for number 3. And then the same last corner, the point that's towards you, you're going to the centre, but you're going beyond that, you're going to the base of the line of the triangle on the other side. So if we look carefully now, 1, 2, 3, 4 squares, 8, 12, I've got 16 small squares, and the 4 middle ones are going to be the base of my box. Now here at the sides, you can see that I just need another line across here, so my lines are all evenly spaced. So what I can do here with each bit of the triangle is bend it back on itself, and that will give you the last line. You can bend, it doesn't matter which way, whether you bend in or bend out, depending on which way you want the box to be, what pattern you're having on the inside or the outside. You may need some adjustments as to which way you fold in. So there I have got lots of even lines going across my cardboard like that, and they're going down in the same way across the edge there. And how wide are they? Mine are just over 3.5 centimetres, something like that. But how big yours are would depend on how large the piece of card was to begin with. We then need scissors because we're going to cut from the outside edge up to the corner of this square in the middle. So I'm going to cut up here, here, and here. So it's 4 cuts, 2 on this side, 2 on that side. So following the lines of my folds, nice straight line, and remember to stop. Remember to stop. So here I've got 4 squares and a triangle on this piece, 4 squares in the middle, turn it round and cut again. Like so. You do not cut these bits because you just end up with little bits of triangle that don't do anything. So you're now ready to actually fold your box together to create the square. So what I'm going to do here is taking the point towards me, and this is of the big triangle, so the little flappy wings are running off side to side. I've got the big triangle facing me, and it bends right the way up, like that. I'm then going to take this edge, so I've gone up here, this is the outside edge of my box. I fold the card over, this becomes the inside edge of my box, and this triangle here is the base of my box, on the inside of my box. So I do the same thing on the other side, lift the whole triangle up, creating the outside edge of the box, fold that over to be the inside edge of the box with the triangle at the base. So you can see how that's starting to stand up. And then I've got these flappy wings at the edge here. So if I fold that over to that side and this wing over to the other side, you can see it's starting to create the upright of the box. And then with the flap here, I go up the outside, bend over to go down the inside. And then that last triangle becomes the triangle at the bottom of the box. So again, flapping over to create the sides. And then this last bit of paper goes up and back in. So up to create that outside edge, and use the folds to roll back through on the inside edge of the box. And there you have the little box. If you wanted to, this would be the opportunity to glue the box together. So I like using a glue stick, and I would put the glue stick on that bottom triangle and bend it over like that. But it may be that you might not want to do that just yet, because if you get in a muddle later on, you might want to undo this to work out how to make your second box. So that is the lid. Actually, it's not the lid, it's the base, because it's a smaller piece of paper here. So that I can set to one side and then do exactly the same thing. So what I have done, I've already got my first fold in, because that's how we created the square, by making a triangle and opening it out. I then twist it and make a fold going through this way, the other way. So it's like I've got a giant X running through the top of my box, lining up the corners, so these corners match and these little angles at the ends match. Nice firm fold, open it out. I'm then taking the pointed edge to the centre, the pointed edge to the centre, and the pointed edge to the centre. So you're going all the way around. I've done mine opposites, so I just like working north-south and then west-east, but if you want to work your way around as the face of the clock, that's entirely up to you. So there we've got our big square with these triangles at the end. So I take the triangle flap that's towards me. I'm not going to the middle. I've done that crease already. I'm bringing it right to the base of the large triangle opposite and then folding it in place. And then going round, triangle. The point of the triangle is to the middle of the base of the top triangle. So bringing it here, not going to the middle, I'm going to the base of that large triangle at the top, and you'll be able to follow your lines. You'll see more easily, you'll have your own grid lines which will be showing up really well. And the last one here. So here I've got my 16 squares in the bottom and a larger triangle at each side. So that larger triangle needs to be broken down. I need to have a grid line coming here. And so I can do that by folding in the last piece to make a mini triangle that goes up to the first fold line you've got there. And when you've done all 4 of those, that is all your creasing done, you can then get your scissors out. So the 4 squares in the middle are the base of the box. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to cut 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 here and 2 here opposite. So following the grid lines, the fold lines, cut up and only cut through the first 2 squares. So 2 squares length, leave these sections whole and twist that round and come back. So all the cutting is done, the grid lines are done, it's now time to make again. So can you remember how to do this? Twist it round to you, so you've got the big triangle facing you and the 2 flappy bits off to the side. So we're folding the triangle up to create the outside edge of the box. Then using the grid lines, fold it down to create the inside edge of the box. And then you've created the first triangle on the base of the box. And then twist round and do the same thing. So I've got the large triangle facing me. I lift it up to create the outside edge of the box. I fold down to create the inside edge of the box. And then that second triangle is creating the next bit of the base. And then you've got these flappy bits at the side. So crease those down on the lines you've already made. So they make a nice crisp edge, and that's the third side of the box. And they need to cover up those gaps, the 2 pieces of overlapping card here. And I lift this side piece up, so that's creating the neat outside edge of the box. I'm creasing it on the top ridge and then bending it back inside. And you can see now I've got that third edge up, everything's much more robust. It'll be much easier now working. So with the flaps, crease along the outside edge to get it to sit nice and crisply. And they will sit just like that. They're just butted up against each other. They're a bit wobbly at the moment. So hold them with one finger, pinch them together, lift up the flap to create the smooth outside edge, fold that back down inside, and there you have got the top of the box. So fingers crossed when I put these together, they're going to fit. There we go. So that is the finished box. And then you can decide how you would like to decorate. So this one's quite fancy already. I think probably it doesn't need any more decoration, but perhaps the plainer ones do. So the easiest way of doing a bit of decoration is to take a bit of ribbon, and I've got a narrow red ribbon here I've been using. Little polka dot ribbon. So if I fold that in half just to get the centre, and just, oh, I've got a little knot in that, just get rid of that. Just wrap the box up as you would do normally, crisscrossing in a very simple way of going over the box. I'm sure you're used to that. So I found the midpoint of the ribbon over the edge, flip it over and do a single knot at the back, separate out the edges, and there you've got your classic cross shape, flip it over again. And then what I like to do for a bit of extra security, I have the top piece of ribbon over the top, and then I go over that, and then I like to just take it underneath both sets of the ribbon as well, so it just holds firmly. So I've created a knot there, and you could just finish off with a simple bow. But why not add some decoration and to really finish it off? So I'm quite happy with that. I might want to trim these to length, cutting them at an angle just so they don't fray, just to keep them a little bit neater. And then, you know, what are we going to add in inside? Well, I've got a tray of goodies off to one side. I have got some artificial frosty looking Christmas pine. I've actually got some fresh Scots pine there I've trimmed off. Artificial holly leaves. So whatever you choose, it's entirely up to you. I've got some orange slices. I've got some tiny pine cones and some of the beech nut husks. So what you do here is this is where your artistic license comes in. So I'll do one with the artificial greenery first of all. I mean, it would be great if you're doing a bigger box, you could just get a great big sprig on, but I'm going to cut off these two side pieces. And then I thought it'd be quite nice if they sort of made a sprig like that. But I've got a bit of chunky overlay, so I'm going to trim off some of the needles, the pine needles of this one piece here. And then I can glue them together and they will fit together much more snugly. So I've got a hot glue gun off to the side. So a little trail of glue there. Hold that on the top, just making sure you're not going to glue your fingers together or burn yourself. So it's quite a quick glue, but it's not instant, so might need holding for a little while. So I've got a little swag there. And I could slide that underneath my bow, or of course you could tie the bow over your little swag, whatever is easiest for you. Getting a little bit caught up with my bow there. And leave it like that if you wanted to, or keep adding. So you could, you know, little orange slices and pine cones. Just make sure that everything sort of fits and you haven't got something that's really huge and looks too large. So little pine nut husk here will fit in with my look. I'm going to make sure I glue that onto the pine, not onto the ribbon, so the bow can be undone easily. So just a little bit of detail really. And there's even things like little Christmas baubles, you could attach that on there. As I say, it's just whatever you've got to hand. You could use your pine cones, these are cinnamon sticks. Perhaps that's a bit large or like that, but if I snapped it or cut it in half, that would make a nice little addition on the edge there, sort of bringing you through that sort of woodsy feel. So I could have a look at adding some of that in there if I wanted to. And that's what I've done here. So that's my original bit of pine there. And then with a gingham ribbon with a slice of orange underneath. And then perhaps I could attach a pine cone there. So having a think about that, a bit of glue on the bottom. So I'm gluing the pine cone to the orange in order that the ribbon doesn't get glued together. And you can just pull the ribbon cord to open the gift. And you can be as creative and inventive as you like. And also with the actual card you're using, I have chosen the magazine pages quite carefully. I've gone for greens here, I've gone for mainly whites on here. But if you wanted to, you know, just go random or try and match them to the theme that you're going for. So it's entirely up to you. But the idea is being a little bit creative and recycling bits and pieces of what you've got at home already without feeling that you need to go out and buy more bits and pieces. So I should make a little bit of a sort of a garden of materials there. So that's a little bit of pine cone there. And do I want to put the bauble in? I'm not quite sure about that. But lovely, it's a bit too big, I think. But if you had a red button, that would look absolutely gorgeous just there. I wonder if I can put a few more. Yes, I think I quite like that. I'm going to take that stem off there. A little bit of glue on the side of the beech nut husk. And I'm going to glue that onto the pine, the cinnamon stick. So you start to develop the look that you're after. So that is the finish of this project. So I'm just going to whisk the camera back around again and I'll let you know what we're doing next week as well. And if you haven't already booked your ticket for next week, please do go ahead and do so. And I'll make sure that when I send out the email to you, you've got the worksheet for next week and also the booking link if you haven't booked already. So I hope you enjoyed watching as I showed you how to make your own mini origami gift boxes. As I said before, I can't wait to see how you adapt the technique and how you go about decorating your boxes, whether you stick with the ribbon or whether you want to go with the little bits of trimmings as well, and whether you're using fresh material, dried or artificial. I'm really looking forward to seeing how inventive you can be. Next week, it calls for more magazines. We've got a choice really. We're going to be paper crafting some garlands and making individual ornaments you could either hang on your Christmas tree as ornaments or string them together to make a garland. So I'm probably going to be using the pages of a second-hand book. So I'm going to have black and white with text on them, but you could use your magazine pages again, whether you choose random pages from your magazine or whether you try to go colour coordinated, perhaps ripping out all the green pages you come across or the red pages, depending on what your colour theme is going to be. Now, that would be helpful, but it's not essential. I'm going to be using some large hole craft punches like this. So I've got a star-shaped one. I think that's about a 6cm star, and I have got a heart-shaped motif as well. I will say that hearts and stars I think are a really great motif for all year round. So although we're making and creating in time for Christmas, there's no reason why you couldn't put anything up that's heart or star shaped now and actually enjoy it for Christmas and enjoy it in the new year as well. Now the last punch I've got is a circle punch here, and I think this one is about 5cm. And we're going to make a 3D pom-pom garland using this. And I'm actually going to be using my sewing machine as well. And before you hold up your hands in horror, I have a needle on my sewing machine that I just use for craft, and I sellotape it to the top of my machine. So I'm going to thread up my machine, print out or cut out lots of round shapes, put them together in a little pile and sew right the way through them and continue sewing. And I have lots of little balls of pom-poms of paper. You could use tissue paper for this as well. If you don't want to go to the expense of buying yourself a craft hole punch, and I will leave links to them in the workshop download I'm going to give you, but if you wanted to work on the circle garland, you could find something that's circle shaped. So here I've got an egg cup, so it just means you take a bit more time drawing around your egg cups and cutting out your shapes. And with, of course, the heart and the star, if you want to use those motifs, it may be something that perhaps you've got pastry cutters in your cooking drawer that you could use those. I'm going to wrap things up now. So what I'll do is I'll just splice the bits of video together, pretty much filmed as live, so they won't be over edited. So all my misspoken words will still be in there. And I will be sending you the video out later on today. You'll be watching it now because I would have sent it to you already. And if you've missed out on any of the classes, let me know. You can book those retrospectively and I will send you the video recordings of what we've got up to in the first week. And I'm really looking forward to welcoming you through to next week and perhaps subsequent weeks as well. And if you decide that you do want to block book, if you just increase the ticket price increase the number of tickets you're purchasing from my website, and then if it's just confirm by email which of the additional classes you'd like to sign up to, and I can keep my paperwork straight. So I hope this is going to keep you busy over the run up to Christmas, and as I say, Christmas isn't quite going to be the same this year with the coronavirus and all the different lockdown mechanisms all over the country and the world. So perhaps I'm looking out of the window now, it's a dull Tuesday wet afternoon in half term, so perhaps these projects will keep you busy and your hands creative when you've got nothing much to do and you're feeling a bit down in the dumps. And if you're not able to join live, do think about trying to join live, because we do have a nice chat and a make and create afterwards, and it's nice, really nice sort of doing something communally, even though we're all sitting in our own kitchens working. But that's the beauty of the class. It's as close to live as we can possibly get without actually being live. And of course, if you're not able to join live, I do hope you're enjoying the videos, and if you've got any questions and queries, don't forget to ask them in my free Facebook group, Flower at the Start World. So that really is all for me for now, and I will catch up with you next week. Bye for now.